But hey, let's talk about the reviews a little bit. They got a 10. You guys say you don't follow reviews. I follow them to this fact as anybody can have their own opinion. That's fine. Someone can say it's the best game of all time, and I personally think it's shit. That's fine. That's their opinion. They can say it's
GTA 4.
They can say it's the shittiest game of all time, like I don't know, Duke Nukem Forever or Alien Colonels versus Marines.
Resident Evil.
Sometimes I take
It's a very different
those
game.
as a whole and see what the industry says and says, well, that game must be broken, which that game was, and I don't buy it. So,
well, I mean, don't get me wrong.
I
Like,
don't take one person's and
Yeah.
review and say that's the give all. So for certain games, like if I'm gonna cuff about, I'll look at like the whole Metascore and I can see what guys like you were saying that actually play it, and sometimes that does affect me in whether I purchase the game or not. But more often than not, I know what games I'm gonna buy, regardless. Like the Master Chief Collection, I'm gonna buy. Far Cry 4, I'm gonna buy.
Right? Like, yeah, that's what. But that's what I mean. Like, I'm not trying to diss reviewers in the sense that like
No, I'm
I
not
won't read
either.
their reviews. Like,
I
I'll
agree
read
with
something
you.
from Giant Bomb or Eurogamer or Edge and something like that.
But
It's just I'm at that point where like I know what I want.
yeah, I
Like,
agree.
know what I'm
It's
gonna
one
like.
person's opinion. I'm glad I didn't buy that the previous Aliens game because Gearbox fucked it up. And I didn't know that until I read reviews as a whole and saw that even IGN shit on it. So and they give everything fucking 9. So
If IGN shits on something,
Yeah. IGN's like the last bastion of like.
so I can't say I ignore them completely, but it's one person's one person's opinion. Sometimes websites get
Some
there's
websites have maybe objectively sound reviews, like endlessbacklog.com.
Hey, there you go.
So this is a good topic. I mean, Champ and I were talking a little bit before the cast, and talking about topics. And one of the things we did want to chat about tonight was, reviewers and how the modern day reviewer, and should you pay attention? Are there good ones out there? Are there bad ones? Are there people you should be paying attention to more than others? And Champ, I'm going to let you kind of kick this off. Get on the heels of what Hyle was just saying. Like, kind of what are you getting at?
I mean, we could take this a couple different ways, but like one thing I remember talking this with Will the other day about how Alien and Evil Within got these sort of sporadic reviews, and everybody's saying it's so mixed, but it's like you're getting a 78 and an 80 and a 76 on Metacritic. Like
That's
in any other
garbage.
medium, that's not even bad. Like, you know what I mean?
If
Like,
that was a movie, that'd be pretty great.
yeah, like if it's a film, it's great. Like the fact that you're getting, and I was telling Will, I was like, maybe we're finally getting, maybe after all the bitching we've ever done about game critics are too much of a hive mind and they reward polish over, and it's disgusting, they still do. They're finally showing that you can have a range of opinions to things. And it's like, that's what, because like, look at Alien and look at Evil Within. Some of those complaints for both of them just sound like, I ran out of ammo at this part. And I'm like, some people said that about Last of Us. I'm like, unless you completely suck at hoarding in games, you shouldn't run out of ammo in those games. Like, you just can't. Like, if you know how to play that type of game, you know not to run out of ammo. Right?
Yeah, I don't think I played for 5 minutes in that game with an issue with my ammo. Speaking of Last of Us.
Yeah, even on
But
Survivor.
they do a good job with tension with it, though.
Yeah, that's true. Like, I'm not saying
You can't just fucking.
Yeah, well, no, I'm not trying to shame Last of Us. I'm saying like,
I know
you
you're
get what
not.
I'm saying? Like, even the people that are negative about it is like, no, you
Game of
just
all
suck.
time.
Fuck you. Anyway, I was just saying, like, the people that try to paint it as a negative is like, no, that's on you, the player, less the game. Like, but we could argue that back and forth. But I think like one common trend that's happened in this new gen is we are getting more range in terms of opinions. Like, I feel like a few years ago, Destiny gets the apologist bullshit 87 at least. At least. No matter how pathetic the level design is, it would have gotten a free pass. And that hasn't happened this year. Like, they weren't giving Watch Dogs a free pass all the way through. They have not given Evil Within and Alien Isolation free passes on certain things. You hear what I'm saying? Like,
I think they were way too generous to Watch Dogs. An 8 for Watch Dogs is...
No, let's not get carried away. I still think they can get generous. I'm saying, like, we're starting to see a
The scale's loosening up a bit. I think.
Yeah,
we're
I
seeing
can see that. Yeah,
You know,
It's
Instead
still,
of
in my
like
opinion,
an
still
8
keeps
to 10, it's like a 6 to 10.
right.
we're
Let me hear what
really-
Will's mic's a little bit quiet. I want to hear what his point was. Go ahead,
Okay.
Will.
Well, I mean, like, just going back to what Gaga said earlier, like, 4 years ago, do you think IGN gives Alien a 5.9? There's no fucking way. That game is at least a 7.5.
Is that what they gave to it?
Yeah.
Oh
Which
my
is
god.
completely wrong, by the way. Ryan McCaffrey is a fucking idiot. You can quote me on that. He can't write. He clearly has problems with games that don't involve prolonged periods of shooting shit. He's a moron.
He's an official Xbox.
But
magazine
that
guy.
aside,
But that aside, like,
He's a good guy.
I'm sure he's a decent human being. He just probably shouldn't be, you know,
A critic.
a critic or,
That
you know,
aside.
write anything ever aside from checks. But I mean, I don't know. I think
I got one for you, Dark Link. Now, aren't you being? See, that's what's tough about you're actually criticizing game reviewers. So you're saying that your opinion, the way you theoretically right, doesn't matter, is more valid, more important than a person that you're reading. So what do you think about if someone brings that
No,
up?
Of course it is.
What?
Of course it is. He's the king of System Wars, dude.
No, I'm saying what about? I mean, that's.
Well, no.
That's the
What
whole
I'm saying.
crux
What
of
I'm saying
reviews
is,
is
all right,
one-
all right. What I'm saying. What I'm saying about Ryan McCaffrey's review. He is entitled to his opinion. His opinion is based on really stupid stuff. It
Will is
looking-
basically trying to argue there are objective ways he can argue against his review and show you that his review is false. That's his problem with it. There are objective ways to point out how Ryan McCaffrey is wrong about what he says.
Yes, like there are factual things that are wrong about that game and the way he's using them to make his points, and
Like
that's
if he
fine.
was arguing if he was arguing the game isn't suspenseful, if it wasn't this, that, or that, then William has no leg to stand on. At that point, he's trying to argue against someone's preference. Like,
Yeah,
what? That's
and-
stupid.
Why would I do that? That is dumb.
Yeah.
But my
But, like-
point being is that review is not. I don't know. When your Facebook post advertising that review is this is not a good game for the reasons that you stated of it's too hard and it's too long and the alien is too hard to get away from, then it's like, I'm sorry, you have not been using the tools the game is giving you. But point being, let's get away from that. I just wanted to shit on Ryan McCaffrey for a minute. But
Oh, sorry.
No, let him finish. Yeah.
what I'm saying and what Goggin's saying is like it's nice that we're getting to the point where like we're getting so many different opinions about the way things should work and people are actually like using critical theory to dissect games, be it, you know, feminism or whatever it is. We're actually
there's
getting
the
like
word.
critical discussion, like from a perspective, which 5 years ago would not have happened.
So,
I-
whoa, you just opened up a can of worms. Go ahead.
Well,
keep
when
going.
it,
Hold on. I want to say
English,
something.
animal, English.
Hubba-dubba-dubba-doo. No, I don't mind that the scale's opened up. It's nice to see that there's a broader range of opinions. I wish that there was just more quality control from like whatever websites, like seeing, you know, and listen, this is going to sound like butthurt, but like seeing Batman Arkham Origins get a 6, and that game is perfectly competent, and get a 6 for being...
I gave it a 6.
That's
Yeah,
fine,
Jerry.
whatever.
But see, my thing is like
But wait, let me finish.
okay, all right.
My thing is, for one reviewer to call it more of the same, and then Call of Duty to get an 8 for being more of the same, like, to me, that's not consistent across the board. Like, there should be... I understand it, like, and I understand that reviewers have different opinions, and what have you, but, like, to see one website give a score for a game saying, okay, this game's going to get a 6 because it's more of the same, and then they give Call of Duty an 8 for being more of the same, like, that is something that baffles me. Like, that is the baffling thing to me. And before we get deeper in, because Eureka said that you did open a can of worms, and I do have a lot to say about that, I just wish there was a little more consistency between, like, on quality control of some reviews. Like, if a website is going to publish a review, like, I feel like I keep perseverating, and I'm sorry, but it's just like, oh, this game is more of the same but gets a 6, but this game's more of the same and gets an 8. yes, I understand they're different genres. One game had technical shortcomings, blah blah blah. But like to make that a point and then see
Well,
that,
Mm.
you know what I mean? It doesn't come across as consistent to me at all. Like if there was some quality control where you were like, okay, you're saying this game's more of the same, but why isn't this game more of the same? Like if they explain that, I'd be like, okay, I get it. But they don't because every reviewer is different.
You want to know why that's an issue? I actually do have my stance on that one as well.
Okay.
But
You ready for this? I don't think. First of all, I think part of it is that the readers react too much to the bad section and not the entire review. Because I think Arkham Origins reviews do show you multiple reasons, other than it's more of the same of why it's not as good. The other thing I was trying to say is the problem is game reviewers tend to be lazy in terms of descriptions. Like, I feel like they want to explain more in their review and too often stick to common tropes like this game is polished or not polished, or this game is more of the same, without outlining what's still more of the same and why isn't it effective. Because if we were being honest, how is Bayonetta 2 that different from Bayonetta?
Right.
the other part of it
Why
is
would you
that
not knock it for more of the same? You get what I'm saying?
a
Yeah.
lot of it is like not the same people are not reviewing all these games. Like, you know, like if you give me, use an example. If you give me a Dynasty Warriors title, I've played like 4 of them over the course of like 20-something years of playing video games. That series, I like that series. It still remains fairly fresh to me. If you
Right.
give it to someone who's played that series every single year, they'll probably knock it for being repetitive, whereas I won't.
Right.
Because I haven't played 13 entries, I've played 4. And there's still some freshness there. So I think that like the idea that we need to be consistent across the board with what is and is not like repetitive is a little bit ridiculous, because there's no way to do it. What you find repetitive may not be something that I find repetitive.
Right.
Besides, video games are just series of repetition anyway. It's a
Yeah,
bunch of
I mean-
systems that you exploit over and over and over again. That's all it is.
Right. So Chris, I wanted to ask you a question. Listening to Will talk earlier about the idea of things like feminism making their way into the context of a review and our overall opinion of a game. I mean, I'm even hearing, I can't remember who it was, but I saw something on Twitter with people kind of being feminist groups being upset that Bayonetta is getting such high scores because the feminists are out of sorts because she exemplifies, a sexual type of a character, and they don't want things like that, being paid attention to in the video game world. If a reviewer comes along, as we've seen happen over the past several years now, I guess few years, of adding their own personal flavor and opinions into things like reviews, Chris, is that to you something that you don't want to hear? Does that immediately turn you off from the review when someone's like, this, objectifies women? I'm really not into it.
It just seems, I don't know, because I know a specific review for Bayonetta 2. It just seems so kind of attention grabby. A lot of the time you read these reviews and they have nothing to say about it. They're just pointing out the fact that there's a potentially over-sexualized character in a video game. It's like going back to Kratos. No one says anything when this guy who's ripped as hell is blowing through this game without his shirt on the entire time. But the second a girl does it, it's because it's the hot button issue right now. He can basically write half a review focusing on one issue, and that tanks the game in that reviewer's eyes. I think it's kind of unfair, personally.
I think Arthur Gies made some negative points on God of War Ascension for violent stuff also.
I mean,
Can't say he's not consistent on that front.
yeah,
I
like
think.
I'm not trying to say that like I agree with Arthur Gies or the people who were saying that. Oh,
No.
It's just
Yeah.
It's important if criticism for games is going to be legitimate, like to have stuff like that, to at least discuss it. You don't have to agree with it. That's the beauty of criticism. Is I could read that review and say I fundamentally disagree. This is why, but I understand where he's coming from. And that's okay, and it's good to have that discussion. Like, think about all the discussion that came up when Spec Ops: The Line came out. Like, that is good, genuine criticism, and we could use more of that in our reviews, looking at the game outside of itself, more in the context of the medium or in the context of, like, what it has to say. Those are good things.
Mm.
That
Yeah.
is what I'm saying.
I wholeheartedly agree. I think that this broadening of source is a good thing because, I mean, the more diverse opinions you have, like, it actually reflects how people approach these games.
No,
I mean,
I
there's
think
no-
it like
yeah.
it will
There's-
eventually, hopefully, color developers' psychology when they're creating specifically a female character to make them maybe more modest. But I don't know. Bayonetta, like I remember there was an article that's saying Bayonetta is both over sexualized and empowering at the same time.
Mhm.
So I think it does kind of come down to how maybe sensitive you are to those issues.
I mean, yeah, it's like not everyone's going to feel the same way. I mean, even when we were having a discussion about Bayonetta right before, and a lot of us really like the game, and it's a game that plays really well. Some people
Yeah.
are really turned off by the aesthetics of that game.
Well, then they should go fucking play Mario or something. I mean,
Maybe they
there's-
should, but
There's
like,
games. There's games for. That's what's great about games, or the media is.
Yeah.
There's games for different kind of tastes. If they don't like it, don't fucking play it.
I mean, that's fine, but like, you'd also expect to see that there'd be some reviewers who would come to that game and wouldn't like it. Also, that would reflect some of the people out there who might.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
interested
that's their
in the game,
opinion. Again, yep.
Yeah, that's their opinion. Like, there can be a lot of different opinions, and we don't all have to agree on everything. And I think that's good. I think the other nice thing about that, if stories start to get more broad, if reviews start to approach from more varied perspectives, is that maybe people will actually have to read the text of reviews instead of just
Yeah.
boiling them down to numbers.
Sure.
Because before we could just assume that like a number meant, oh, this game plays well and has a decent story and doesn't fuck up, so it's an 8 or something. But if people are bringing different value systems into it, and like, you actually have to see why they got to that conclusion, and I think that's good. I think it's going to lead to better criticism, and that's going to help developers, and that's hopefully going to help people understand why they feel the way they do about games.
So Champ, if you could blow up the review model that we have all embraced, which is usually numerical or star rated or letters or however you want to put it, and just go off the written word, would you do it, or do you think that the numerical scores have a place in reviews?
I mean, that's unfortunately the nature of the beast, is because when we started Endless Backlog, I wanted to do no scores, period.
In
Like,
fact,
I
a lot
hate-
of us did, yeah.
I hate that part on System Wars or any video game forum, or even amongst us. Like, this infuriates me when, like, people in Endless Backlog, when we're talking and someone goes, I mean, is that game an 8 out of 10? I thought it was a 7 out of 10. Like, he didn't argue what the game did or didn't do wrong. He argued the game as, like, this number. And that's like, that's not even a thought.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's not even a description.
Right.
You know? It's like what's awesome to me isn't always going to be awesome to you. And I feel like numbers, more importantly, we had this Tomb Raider podcast, me, Will, and Phil. Will and Phil are super positive on the game. I'm not as positive as they are, but like, if you listen to that podcast, we disagree on two fundamental things: the exploration and the puzzles. Right?
Mhm.
But like, the score could have changed from me giving it to a 6, which is what I gave it when I wrote the review, to these two probably going somewhere at an 8 or a 9. And it's like, but you listen to us talk, at the end of the day, we're all positive on the game. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, how much did a 6 and a 9 become a whole lot of semantics at that point?
Mm.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And that's
Yeah.
a lot of review scores. Like, if you listen to Giant Bomb's Game of the Year podcast every year, it's not the 5-star games are automatically
Right.
going to the top, because it's like, Jeff will tell you straight up he didn't like Last of Us. He thought it played like crap. Like,
Yeah.
mid-conversation Game of the Year, he's just going, what about the part where the gameplay sucks? You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? And
Yep.
it's like, that shows you that there's a range of opinions to be had, and like, the score system by default is an opinion. Why do we make such a big deal out of scores? But the problem is, if you want to be a website in the 21st century or anything that covers games, you need to have some sort of numerical score. I mean, Metacritic matters. Developers' bonuses are based on Metacritic, and that's a sad reality that everyone has to accept. Like, but you know what I mean? So like,
Yeah.
you can't.
Yeah.
Go-
People
no,
also
go,
want
Ben.
to have a single character way of understanding what the review is, and just saying 5.
I'm
And now
not
you have
reading
some idea
all
what
that
it means.
text.
I'm
Yeah.
not reading text. And so, I mean, yeah, in terms of the reality of the business, it's kind of hard to get rid of it.
Yeah.
But
Right.
I do
Yeah,
wish
I mean,
there was
the
less
rea-
emphasis on it.
Right. I mean, the reality of the business is, I mean, isn't the number is the thing that gets people to click when you really think about it. I mean, you can put
Yeah.
a fancy tag on the top of your review, but if the number is a 6 or a 5 on a highly touted game, that's what gets people to click on it. So I guess I'm not suggesting that the numerical system is going to go anywhere. I guess it's more in a dream world. Would you keep it or would you blow it up?
In my ideal world, I would blow it up.
Right.
But
Get it out of there.
Yeah,
Like, who
get it out,
cares?
man.
Right. All right, so I guess then I want to move to this, and I'm going to open it up to anyone. We haven't heard from Willie in a little while, even Heil or Animal. Anybody who wants to chime in can. Who are the people, if you guys had, given the fact that we live in a day and age now where, and I'll be honest with you, before our podcast, I looked through some Google searches on who's considered to be the best of the best as far as modern day reviewers in the medium that we love, which is video games. And a lot of people talking about people like Angry Joe, people like Rooster Teeth, or like who's the guy?
guys?
Guys all over YouTube.
Zero punctuation.
Zero punctuation was one that kept popping up. So I guess what I want to know is, to you guys, given the fact that you've got opinions coming in from every which way, if somebody came up to you that was just getting into video games and wanted a good review place, other than Endless Backlog, where would you send them?
See, that was my...
Given, let me put it to you this way. Given the fact that Endless Backlog would be your first choice,
Okay.
what would be your second choice?
I see.
Game trailers or joystick. Those sites, I mean, they speak to me a lot. I think the reviews are pretty fair most of the time, with sometimes the questionable, like, did you get the point of the game review? Otherwise, I think both those sites are some of my favorites. I would tell people to check those out.
Yeah. All right. How about Willie? I want to know what Willie thinks. Willie, because you get your reviews from some sources I don't think I've ever heard of. Where are you getting reviews from?
Well, usually from YouTube, places like Classic Game Room,
Yeah.
Mark Bussler. I think they're cool.
Okay. How about Will?
Me?
Yeah.
I really like US Gamer. I really like everyone who writes there. I'm a huge fan of Jeremy Parrish's writing specifically. I actually like Kotaku's writing, depending on who the reviewer is.
Mhm.
I think the way they structure their reviews is very long form and actually open to a lot of things that kind of get overlooked. I'm more of a written word kind of guy. I do like Joystick. Yeah, so those ones. Oh, and GameSpot for Kevin Van Ort, because I think he knows how to structure a review well, and I
He's
usually
pretty
agree
good.
with his opinions. And even if I don't agree with him necessarily, I understand where he's coming from.
Yeah. I think that's fair. I actually like the way he writes too. I feel like there's a nice flow to his writing, and totally on the point that you just said, the fact that you might not agree with him, but you can at least see where he's coming from. How about Champ?
So I can't say my boys. I am honestly biased towards at least two of my writers, but all three of them happen to be here, so I guess whatever. Number one, whatever. It's nepotism still, but I'm not apologize for saying this. My boy Tom Towers writes at laserlemming.com. I really always enjoy his reviews. I think they're distinct in the sense that he does things that other writers don't come close to doing with game reviews.
Yeah.
One, he writes relatively long reviews that are more detailed than other game reviews, and that's kind of refreshing because it's like everyone says all these blanket statements and then doesn't give you examples of what they didn't like.
Yeah.
Right? And his reviews always feel like he completed the game, whereas like other reviews feel like, oh, they played half of it and they reviewed it, and that just seems unfair to me. And the other thing is, what I've always loved about it is he changes his review style, his writing style, to sort of match the tone or literature or like feel of that game. And sometimes that's awesome. Like he got when he did 1954 Alcatraz, he wrote in a very beat-centric style writing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, how many writers in games? Jeremy Parish can't do that on his best day. I mean, that's, I'm saying cold hard truth there. With no disrespect to Jeremy Parish, he's awesome, but you get what I'm saying? Like, the fact that he can flex that kind of range,
Right.
I appreciate. And other times it has some mixed results. Like when he was hating on Half-Life 2, he sort of he considers that game dry, so he wrote the driest review ever. And naturally, that's boring as hell to read, right? Like, because it's like, great, I made a review as boring as the game. It's like that's kind of funny, but maybe a little too cute.
Right.
Number 2, I actually really like Angry Joe reviews. Not in the sense that I like him as a reviewer or he matches up with my opinions, but
He's entertaining.
he's sort of like he's so entertaining, and he's again so detailed. Like he's showing you the advantage of video reviews as opposed to how like GameSpot does video reviews, but they're lazier in my opinion because they're just shorthand versions of the review they wrote. Angry Joe shows you, hey, because if you're writing for so long, you can only keep someone engaged for so long.
Mhm.
Like that's sort of the other reason why no one does long reviews is because not that many people are good enough writers to pull that off. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But he's showing you he's charismatic, he's got a personality, he knows how to mix in. He's got great comedic timing and like knowing exactly when to put in a joke. Like you might be tired about hearing the game, let me make you laugh real quick to bring you back into it.
Right.
Like he's showing you what can be done in a video review and the value of a video review and why you shouldn't just make it I wrote a review and then I put it on screen, right?
Right.
So that's why I like him. And then number 3, I guess for me is mostly the US gamer cats. Like Parrish is cool people. You know, I just blasted him a little bit, but whatever. He's really good.
You mean the guy that you just said sucks ass? Yeah. No, I'm just...
Well, he doesn't suck ass.
No,
I just don't think he has. I don't think he has the range that my boy has in this context.
Right.
I also really like Mike Williams. No bias to the fact that he gave Bayonetta 2 a nice review. Entirely, though, down to the fact that he's a PC elitist, and that warms my heart. And other than that, they seem... What I'm liking about them as writers is that they're kind of giant bombish in the sense that they're about the games. There's just no bullshit to their reviews.
Right.
There's no, oh, look at this art. We're making art. No, fuck that. He's talking about the game. Like, talk about the game. Thank you. And yeah, Giant Bomb's still number 1, but not for their reviews. I don't go there for their reviews.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Did we hear from Ben yet?
No.
Yeah, from Ben.
I mean, I don't do a ton of review reading nowadays. One of my favorite reviewers who doesn't write game reviews anymore, but I liked Kieran Gillen's work because he's not the sort of, he doesn't write the way I guess Tom Towers does per se, but he was really good at varying up the format and like creating the right review for the right game. His Earth Defense Force 2017 review is one of my favorite reviews of all time because it was just got across the main focus of why that game is good. And it's a game with a lot of, flaws in the sort of objective sense, but it's fun and he captured that. I appreciated that. But these days, a lot of the review reading I do, I like Kotaku's review format a lot. I like that there's sort of yes/no scoring system.
Made on it, yeah.
Means that the text is important and it comes across that way. I read Eurogamer's reviews a lot, though. I mean, they can be kind of inconsistent, but they have some good reviewers. I like Simon Parkin's reviews.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I get a lot of how I feel about games. I think just like listening to a lot of people talk, listening to people, my friends here, listening to podcasts like the Giant Bombcast or Idle Thumbs, and just having a lot of perspectives helps me sort of triangulate where the game is and how it fits into my own taste. I think that's a very important thing to do. It's like, unless you really find someone who matches your taste and you know that, getting a lot of perspective helps a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, so I feel like I take the similar approach to you, Ben, where I can't even say that I have any one reviewer that's appointment like reading for me, as much as maybe Will commented to, or a couple of you other guys about liking particular writing styles and the way that people convey their opinions and whatnot. For me, it's like I just when I start researching a game, I just kind of go down the list and just start reading. I don't even like pay attention to who's writing the review. I know that maybe that's a little shallow of me, but I more or less, just like you said, it's all about as many opinions as I can find, as many opinions that are the same between reviews or things that stand out, things like that. But I agree with that sentiment that as much information as you can grab, the more informed you're going to be on a particular game's overall quality and what people are saying about it. So, Hyle, what do you think? What are some of the reviews you go after?
I like some of the ones you guys like. Joystick is one I usually go to, and I still like GameSpot. I like Kevin's. I miss Tom. No, I don't know where he's at. I really don't read Giant Bomb too much, but probably Kotaku and Joystick and GameSpot are probably my three that I go to the most.
Yeah.
As far as favorite guys, I mean Kevin. I like Kevin's reviews. I miss Tom's, and pretty much all the guys at Joystick I think are pretty level-headed, so I can't think of their names now. I don't really follow personalities too much. I read the reviews and just go from there, I guess. What about you?
Oh, I just said for me, I just said, man, for me, I'm not even going to pretend to be like a massive fan of any one review. Like, in all honesty, like sometimes I'll be like laying in bed, and this is not going to be a weird story, don't worry. But I have,
think it is.
Yeah, it's getting a little bit weird, but like I've got a Roku box and I've got the IGN channel on the Roku box, and like sometimes and I know that reading it is not the same as watching the review, but you get kind of general ideas of what their angle is on things. Sometimes I'll lay in bed and watch like a few back IGN reviews even, and I feel like either they're complete shit or I'm actually really impressed with some of the people. And I know that might sound weird, but honestly, like I take each review, for me it's like we start from scratch, face value. What do you have to say about the game? Like I guess I don't really have, it's gonna sound lame, but I don't really have like a strong opinion one way or another. Like things like the things that Carolyn was getting beaten up for months ago on the GTA 5 stuff, and some of the things that Tom had done before they were both let go, about bringing certain elements of social justice warriors and things like that into it. Like that stuff is kind of a turn off to me, so I don't really pay attention to like those thematic things. But all in all, like I enjoy everybody's angle when it comes to like a video game. Like I want to hear like even talking talking to you guys. Like sometimes I'll rap with Champ on a game, and like maybe we don't see totally eye to eye on like certain aspects of a game, but like I like hearing his opinion on it, and I like offering my opinion on it. Like to me there's nothing that like really stands out that like compels me to follow one particular review over another. But
sure.
I think what you're getting at also happens to be a bit of an issue with maybe a lot of viewers, readers, listeners, whatever, is that I feel like too many people are used to this idea that they need to find someone that fits their opinion, that panders to what they want to hear. Whereas I think like reviews, the way I always wanted our website's reviews are, if it was fuck the score, for instance, like fuck the score, then what's the review for at that point, right? It would be to start a conversation, more or less. Like, here's where I'm saying this game belongs. Let's talk about it now. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, to have that kind of discussion, you need a range of opinions. You need people that will say, you know what? No, Bayonetta sucks. Like, Bayonetta's a bad game because X, Y, and Z. And there's nothing inherently wrong with having that opinion. There's probably, I'm sure someone is out there who can rip Bayonetta apart top to bottom and tell you X, Y, and Z that game does wrong.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like, too many people don't accept that as an option.
And that's showing that. I mean, that's also speaks to the intelligence of the people that are listening. It's even more so than it is about someone having the opinion that Bayonetta sucks. It's more fun to me is having the discussion on why Bayonetta sucks. So for me, it's like going that one step further. Like I like rapping with people about like Mass Effect. You know me. I love Mass Effect, but I can sit there and take a few shots about Mass Effect and love to offer counterpoint on why I think that's either wrong or why I agree with it and still think the game is awesome. So, I mean, there's so many opinions. Like I said, there's so many opinions coming from so many different areas, whether it's YouTube or just the web in general, or showing up in your mailbox. It's like there's no shortage of opinions. So I think that we're kind of at it's almost I enjoy where video games are critically right now.
Yeah.
The fact that you can grab onto so many things and talk about so many different aspects and people's opinions on these games. So we probably overdo it. I think we can probably all agree that we probably critique these things a little too much. But I mean, they're intended just to bring entertainment. So,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I think did we cover everybody? Chris, you gave us your opinion, right? You went first.
What did I?
Did you?
Did you? Yeah, I don't even remember you naming
I
people.
don't even remember. Well, if I did, it was definitely Greg Miller in his Dead Space 2 review. The GOAT.
Yep.
That is so
Yep,
uncalled
nope, Chris
for.
didn't
That
go.
is-
Chris did not go.
Chris did not go. No,
Chris
he
did
definitely
not go.
didn't. Yeah.
No.
No, I'm kind of like Eroica in the sense that I kind of look for the mean opinion. You know what I mean? Like I go through the list and I see a lot of
Like you
reviews.
say an average.
No, not like an average number. I just mean like, you know how on something like Rotten Tomatoes, they go through every review and they kind of think of a summary sentence to describe the movie. And that summary sentence comes from a lot of reviews will have kind of the same thoughts on a particular movie. And that's what I kind of look for in reviews. A lot of reviews will have similar sentences, and I can kind of pick up from them saying the same types of things if it's a game that would appeal to me or not. If in a racing game in Drive Club, if 90% of the reviews talk about the rubber banding AI, I'm not going to like that game. So it's not necessarily a single opinion. It's more like if I'm hearing echoes of the same types of criticisms, then I'll know.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was getting at. Was that when you start to see the trends going up that such and such a game has got a poor AI, poor AI, poor AI, then you start saying, all right, well now I'm building my overall picture of what this game's supposed to be like.
Because a review can give a game like a 9.5 or an 8.5 and still bring up that thing that bothered other reviewers that gave it a lower score, and just for whatever reason that reviewer decided to give it a higher. That's why the numbers don't really matter as much to me, because if he still mentions that the rubber banding AI is there and he gave it an 8.5, I'll be like, fuck the score.
Right.
That rubber banding AI is a problem.
Right.
Sure.
And I think that's a good point that you guys are bringing up, that like the critical consensus isn't necessarily important for the number.
Right.
But like if enough people are saying the same thing, like there's probably some truth to that. And then you have to figure out, like, do I agree with this? Do I disagree with this? Does this bother me personally?
Right.
So, like, aggregates are good for that reason.
Sure.
Yeah.
You can see certain things, not necessarily scores, but, like, the ideas behind them.
Exactly.
Right.
The other thing I think to watch out for, which the Destiny actually really sort of highlighted this a bit, is that a lot of times we expect the game to be a certain way, and then when reviews come out and a score doesn't fall in line with what we want, we're like, oh, fuck that guy. This game's obviously going to be awesome. And so it's kind of interesting when Destiny came out and there weren't any reviews on launch day because Bungie didn't let anyone play the game before release. And so when those middling reviews came out, if those reviews had come out 3 days beforehand, people would be losing their minds.
Right.
But when they came out after people played the game, they were like, well, I guess they have a point. Even if I like the game. And it's like, even the people who like the game are like, this review might have a point, even if I disagree with it.
Did anyone go over the top with a Destiny review? Did we get any perfect scores or 9s or anything like that? I haven't checked Metacritic.
There were some 9s for sure.
Activision found enough to put in a TV ad for it.
Oh, yeah.
It took some work.
Oh, man, they've made up some websites.
Yeah, man. I'm pretty sure some of those are not real.
Yeah.
PlayStation Official Magazine Australia gave it 100.
Jesus Christ.
Bio Gamer Girl gave it like 100.
PlayStation they've sunk a lot of advertising behind that game too. I mean, they were banking on Destiny to be kind of one of their like kind of flagship, like a system. And
it sold a shit ton on PS4.
I was gonna say it's dwarfing what the Xbox is doing on the game, and the game's getting 3.5 million active users a day still. And I know I'm on my backslide from it. I definitely have exhausted I'm getting close to the point where I've exhausted as much time as I'm willing to sink into the game. I'm a level 25, and I'm basically right now doing that game of luck. The game revolves around luck. The single player is beat. Are you guys all still there?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
We're
It sounded
here.
like,
No,
it sounded
we're
like
just
we,
listening
it
respectfully.
sounded like, no, thank you. It sounded like we all cut out. But no, it was one of those games that like you get to level 20 and they say the new game starts, but the new game sucks because it's built around luck. So I mean, it's nothing that we haven't talked about a million times before, but like, I find that shocking that it would people would be willing to give Destiny 100. I don't know.
But you know, it happens.
To each
The
their own,
reviews.
right? Exactly.
Exactly.
Them review dollars, gotta pay.
Yeah,
Yep.
man, the life of a freelancer is hard.
Yep. So, guys, we're gonna before we wrap things up, I know that Champ wanted to pose a question, and if the answers go on a while, so be it. We're gonna let it roll. But Champ, what do you want to get at?
So it's playing off of the thing Animal brought up about the lack of consistency of because obviously reviews could be better, but he brought up the idea that lack of consistency. Like some websites do the whole this game is too much of the same, yada yada yada, right? And I remember when we did the first day when we were just setting up the website, and the first thing we had to go over was the review scale, because I wanted some sort of like I wanted a review scale that showed you this individual person's opinion, but I still wanted maybe like some sort of a guideline we could all stick to, which never fucking happened because you can't have both. I'm guessing. But it's like the thing I brought up was like, shouldn't some games be punished for doing more of the same? Because I think if you're great but you just copy and pasted that game a second time, I mean that's how hard is that? You know what I'm saying? At the same time, I'm like, where I'm trying to go with this is like, are there certain things that you feel like are valued too much among games writers that you think could be cut down on? And to open things up, I'll say mine. I think polish is given way too much credit in a game review, and by that I mean is the fact that a game works should not be praiseworthy. It should be an expectation.
Right.
Like I think it's ridiculous that some games get a giant free. Well, it works, so I guess it has to be an 8 out of 10. Like no, you can be polished and be a bad game. Like I'm sure all of us can think of one game that worked exactly how it's intended, but then you'd say here's
Destiny.
X, Y, and Z of why that
just-
game is boring, bad, lousy. I'm not gonna name
Destiny.
names. I'm not gonna name names, but I'll use a different game from Chris's list. Far Cry 2. That game works as intended. It's not unpolished by any means. It's
Yo,
just
fuck her.
poorly
That's it.
thought out in so many spots.
But
You get what I'm saying?
I think the polish thing is I think it's a matter that games can be polished after the fact now. I mean I agree games shouldn't be given a free pass. They should work out of the box.
Mhm.
But I think it's just too much of a hey, the game can be fixed after launch now. So like if it's polished up from launch, like let's praise it.
Yeah.
Let's all agree that Nintendo does not have some fucking magic polishing fucking in their arsenal.
I mean,
Yes, yeah,
honestly,
fucking-
you say
everyone
that,
talks
you
about
say
Nintendo
that.
and they're fucking, oh, it's so fucking polished. It's their games, oh, they made fucking best artists. Oh, polished. Fuck that. They are not.
Kyle, I'm not gonna lie.
Nintendo
that
game patches
maybe-
are the best.
Time out.
Fuck
I'm not
that.
gonna lie. I think Kyle just made the greatest Goggin impersonation of all time. Just putting it out there.
Fucking so sick of that. They are not some fabled fucking artists. They aren't some fabled fucking programmers. They're just as good as anybody else.
This
He's
just
your-
warms my
Their
heart.
fucking
that
polish
he's-
is fucking whatever.
I like when like Nintendo has like a save bug in a game, and then they have to make people like send their consoles in to to patch it.
Yeah, that's a thing
That's-
that happens. It's not.
It's happened. But yeah, I sort of agree, and sort of like, I think you were saying before, like Batman Arkham Origins, like getting a 6 for being like a good game. It's like, if you want to have a good use of most of the scale, like an average game should get an average score.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Like,
agree.
so
I mean
like,
that
yeah, and so like
Yeah.
even if a game works and like functions the way it's supposed to, like I agree, like it shouldn't just be does it control well, does it do all the things it sets out to do, does it look nice, but is it fun and interesting to play, and does it do its storytelling in a good way? Like, what does this game do to set itself apart? I think as I get older and I have less time, like I really want to make sure like the game I play is gonna bring something new, and like surprise me in some way, or just do something or be really good. And so just polished doesn't just a solid polished game doesn't do for me now what it used to do for me.
Yeah, I think a game can quote unquote lose marks for not having good polish.
Yeah,
Sure,
no, that's
sure,
fine.
sure.
That's fair.
Like
But
if
I
it's
don't
buggy
think
or
it
something, then that's a
Yeah,
problem.
exactly. But I don't think it should.
But
gain
yeah,
points.
my thing is my example has always been it's like giving a car credit for the brakes working. Like no shit.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
what do you
That's
mean the
functional
brakes work?
brakes.
That's a positive. Like no, shut up.
I think there's some idea that sometimes
The
like
car
games start
doesn't
from 10.
explode when you turn it on. That's,
There's an idea sometimes like games start from 10 and then you have to like take points off when there are flaws that come up.
That's
Yeah.
lazy.
But
That's a lazy way of
that's
looking at
lazy,
it.
I think. The game is not just taking off bad points and seeing what you have left, but it's also building up all the good points and seeing what you create.
Yeah, sometimes it's not even like the game it does anything wrong. Like sometimes it's just I don't think the game's excellent because like what's excellent? Like you hear what I'm saying? Like sometimes it's not even about it's not what you did bad. It's like what did you do that was great? Like if you just did everything good, then how are you great? You just did everything good.
Yeah. Well, it's in a way, and I won't even go out and be on record in saying that Watch Dogs was good because I didn't like Watch Dogs pretty much at all. But for all intents and purposes, it was a game that ran and did the things that Ubisoft designed it to do. But the game was not inspiring in any way, shape, or form to get me excited for it or want me to give it a good score. So if you're talking about like that angle, I can totally see that.
Yeah.
And not to make this Polish bashing or anything, but Eroica, do you have something that you feel game reviewers value a little too high that you're just like, fuck that?
It's funny because when you started talking, I was actually thinking when you brought up the question, I was thinking about how sometimes when they go too far in the other direction, it bothers me. And I'm not saying like a game like Fallout New Vegas, for example, and I know you're playing it right now, and I'm assuming you're playing some type of a patched version of it.
Yeah.
Because that game on day one was a hot fucking piece of garbage. Like it was awful. The navigation was broken. The game, clipped like crazy. That fucking, I mean, it was a disaster. Like they were clearly not done with that game when they launched it. That to me is warranted to put knocks against. One of the things that I don't like is when a game might have a few stuttering issues or a few clipping or screen tearing things like that truly don't bug me. Light screen tearing, light, frame rate dips, things like that. And I do see from time to time that there is an emphasis put on those smaller issues. So not to kind of jump back into the pot that we just jumped out of, but some of those issues to me when I read them and then I play the game, I say, yeah, the frame rate dipped a little bit here, or there was a little bit of screen tearing in a cutscene, but like that doesn't to me lower my immersion in the game, and it also doesn't lower my overall opinion on a game. So to that respect, I'm willing to go in the other direction to a certain extent. You get into games that are really, really, I'm not going to say broken, but really, really damaged, like the way Fallout New Vegas was when it launched. I can see them getting all over that. But outside of that, like, God, I don't know. I mean, have we exited the stage of video games where if it doesn't have a multiplayer, it loses points? I mean,
God, I hope so.
Because I feel like
fucking nice.
we really ran that tip. I felt like for way too long because that was something that bugged me. Like, I'm a single player gamer. I like single player. I like co-op. I very rarely get into competitive multiplayer in anything that I play, and it's mostly because I'll get my bag ripped off. But I mean, at the end of the day, like if a game comes out and it is truly a fantastic single player game, then it deserves the AAA score, whether or not it has a multiplayer mode. So I don't know if that kind of falls in line with what you're getting at, but yeah, I guess that's my piece. So
Chris.
Yeah, I remember when BioShock came out, like the original, and a lot of reviewers like, "Oh, it's a fantastic experience. I just wish it had multiplayer."
Yeah, like that's no good.
And then BioShock 2 came out and had multiplayer, and everyone was like, "Whatever, it's not anything."
Yeah.
So what was the point of that? For reviews, I just don't like it when the review spends half of the real estate of the page talking about like the plot and the game mechanics, and that there's like no sort of delving into what like I basically have to read to the end of the page and get to the summary notes to find out what the reviewer's opinion even was.
Like the old 8-page IGN Twilight Princess review.
Right, and it's like half of it is literally a summary of the plot, how to press the buttons of the fucking controller to
There's
get
a fishing mini game.
I know, it's like I don't need when I'm writing a review, I know that I'm not going to talk about every single mini game that was in the game. Because A, I don't know, I want the player to have some surprises when they're playing it, and B, I just find it's like a book. It's exhaustive. I don't need to read about all of those things.
It ends up reading more like a back of the box feature list
Sure.
than a criticism at that point.
Yeah, it almost just feels like they're fishing for that ad line that they get. IGN said it had spectacular multiplayer.
Yeah. Animal, besides the notion that game critics are inconsistent with game is more of the same, like what's a thing that when game reviewers are talking about it, you're like, man, I don't understand why we put so much stock into that.
I don't know. I stopped reading reviews some time ago. Like I rarely it's.
I apologize, by the way.
It's okay. It's okay. I do too.
Love on pedal to the metal.
Love blooms on a battlefield, champ.
Yeah.
Anyways, I don't know. I don't want to open the can of worms again, but it's just like the sexism stuff is just. I feel like that's taken a lot of stock recently, and I feel like that's something that just needs to. Is anyone here a big fan of
lack of sincerity? You know what I mean?
Is anyone a big Simpsons fan? Here?
I am.
Sure.
Old Simpsons.
You remember the episode where it's I forgot exactly what episode it is, but Waylon Smithers ends up in a strip club and he's just in the corner screaming.
Oh, I think yeah.
There's a great picture I found on the internet. I'll dump it in the chat in a second. It just goes, this is how I imagine Polygon felt while reviewing Bayonetta 2. And it's a picture of Waylon Smithers in the corner with, Bayonetta dancing. It's just like, there's too much political correctness in reviews, I feel, that there's too much stock being taken.
In life, man. In life.
Oh, in life, definitely.
I mean, I think it's fine if you don't find that important, but I don't think there's not actually that much of it if you really think about the number of reviews and the number of reviews that care about that stuff.
It's the ones getting the hits, though. That's what it is.
It's always just so vocal.
Exactly. It's
they draw attention because people get upset about it.
Well, the problem was with us on, at least me on GameSpot, because I'm there. It was becoming more of a thing on the day-to-day. With the Rainbow Six Patriots, how women are being used as objects as winning in a game, and
there are more women heads on pikes than there are women on stage at E3. An actual article written by a games writer at Polygon.com.
You guys were talking about the Bayonetta 2 review earlier. How it's sexual, but it's also very empowering. It's just for them to be well, Bayonetta's too sexy, I can't deal with it. It's just kind of
I mean, I know I don't agree with that, but if someone does feel that way, I don't mind them putting in a review.
Here's my problem with it. Is Bayonetta came out the first one 4 years ago now, and there was some maybe little tiny whispers of it's a little over-sexualized, but no one really got on the case. Now suddenly that it's more kind of mainstream to talk about those things, suddenly everyone cares. And it's why didn't you guys care 4 years ago? It's because it's popular right now? Oh, okay.
I think it's because expectations of reviews have changed.
I think that's part of it too.
I just think
That's fair. That's fair. That's fair. But I think to defend what Animal's saying, I always feel like I've never bought into some of these people that make these criticisms, because I keep going back to the Grand Theft Auto 5 review from Carolyn Pettit. It's some of these people just hit up words on thesaurus and call it a day. And I'm not going to act like I've never used thesaurus before, please. All the integrity here. But she used the words this game was profoundly misogynistic at one point, and you can reduce that definition down to its simplest term, that is deeply offensive. And then you're gonna tell me with a straight face that's a 9 out of 10? You're gonna tell me, like, if something was deeply offensive to Indian people, I'm not giving that game a 9.
Right.
You could argue that Goodfellas is profoundly misogynistic, and it's a great movie.
Can you argue that? Well, Goodfellas is really misogynistic.
Yeah,
That's true. Damn. Where were you like months ago when we could have had this conversation?
I'm sorry.
He was in Canada.
I was in
It
Japan.
actually was in Japan.
Oh, okay.
I was in Japan. That's what it was.
I guess that you could say that was a comment on that culture, though. Like,
Yeah.
that was accepted.
Well,
And that's what you could argue about GTA 5. And it's a
here's
discussion
the
that you
thing,
can
though.
have.
Here's the thing, though. She spent like this arbitrary length, like just talking about how it's this blemish on the game. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like Goodfellas, they never talked about that. They said the characters were misogynistic. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was a description of what these characters are. And I don't think anyone that's ever reviewed Goodfellas tells you, oh man, these are the most likable killers ever. It's like, no, they're completely unlikable human beings.
I mean, there's
So they're
even
terrible
discussion
human
about that with Wolf of Wall Street about whether it was glorifying their lifestyle too much or not. Like the movie.
Well, that's Wolf on Wall Street. So you know what I'm saying? That seemed like a fair criticism to me. And did they not respond to that criticism by actually having people who punished that movie?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Whereas GTA 5, this criticism is being brought up. It's not being brought up as like, this is a description of the characters. This is I have this knock against the game, and it's like, oh no, fuck my knock. I mean, it's a 9 out of 10, of course.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, there's a
think-
lack
yeah.
of consistency there.
It's not the lack of consistency, it's the lack of sincerity. Like, if you're gonna get on a high horse, you have to now back it up at that point. If I was going to rip a game, it'd be really stupid for me to give it like an 8 or a 9. Like, no, at that point, I've sort of, the writing has committed me into one direction at some point. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like,
I mean,
you
I
gotta
think
go
that's sort of the problem with review as buyer's guide.
Mhm.
I just got one final point. So we could probably wrap up since we're
We're
2 hours
pretty
into
long.
the
Do
final
I get
point
to have
here.
any input on this discussion?
Yeah,
No.
let's hear Will's.
Well, I'm glad that we have reviews, period, because I grew up much like Heroica did, where we didn't have World Wide Web or even like magazines to even read reviews. We read reviews off the back of boxes and bought shit
Jesus
Atari and
Christ.
shit NES games.
I have the
man.
first Nintendo Power, dude. No joke. The fucking claymation Mario 2 Nintendo Power. Like, that's where I would read religiously, was Nintendo Power for my reviews.
So you bought
Chris,
so
if you
many
wanna-
games off the back of the box, off their
Oh, yeah.
screenshots, and they turn out
Things
to
have
be
gotten
shit.
so much better.
So,
Yeah.
love it or hate, I like having so much at your disposal, and it actually keeps. I mean, they're still gonna make shit games, but developers know that they can't hide behind a fucking box art anymore.
Mhm.
So games like Duke Nukem Forever, games like, the previous Aliens game, Drive Club, whatever, they're gonna get called out for being what they are. So, I like the reviews. So that's just me.
You know, it's funny you just said that about, and I don't want to drag into a whole nother long conversation because we are trying to wrap up, but you said that you can't...
Without Will ever speaking.
Yeah, without Will ever speaking. And Will, I want to hear what you have to say. Heil just said that they can't hide behind their box, and then I look at Destiny selling, what have they sold, like 6-7 million copies already, and that game has been pretty much, for when you consider its budget, its clout, and the amount of support that it has behind it, they pretty much released a turd of what they promised, and yet that game is still successful.
Yeah. Aren't films sort of that same way? Like, I
Even-
mean,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
not
sure.
like Gone Girl is gonna outsell Transformers 4 or
Ugh.
bad Superman movies, unfortunately.
I mean, and even Alien Colonial Marines did pretty well
That game sold like 2 or 3 million.
because just off the Aliens name.
Yeah. All right, so Will, it's your turn, man. You're up.
All right, so what were we talking about again? No, I remember. Things that I wish like reviewers would kind of stop giving too much credence to. I think one is that we need to like stop reward games for just being competent. Like we've talked about that a little bit, but like if you check all the boxes in your multiplayer shooter, you are not a great multiplayer shooter. You are a game that checked the boxes. That is a 6, that is a 7, maybe if it's really good. You know what I mean? Like we need to stop rewarding things that are just like, It does what it says it's gonna do on the box. 9 out of 10. Like, I don't feel like that's gonna get us anywhere as far as like what is a truly great game. What are you gonna go back to 5 years from now and say, man, remember that game? That was fucking awesome. Talk about with your friends, water cooler moments, like all that stuff. I think another thing, like, maybe we need to stop getting so hung up on tech and like just because like, hey, 60 frames, 1080p, yeah, that's really great, but like in 10 years are you gonna care? No. Like, unless it significantly impacted your experience, no. And then, like, to jump on what Goggin said, like, if you're gonna bring your social views into a review, like, you would damn well better stick by them.
Yeah.
Like, if that's gonna be a major part of your argument, you don't bring it up in the last paragraph and then abandon it and say, well, the game was really good aside from the fact that I found it profoundly insulting and, like, morally, like, you know, terrible.
Reprehensible.
Yeah. Like, if this game, it, like, bothers you that much, you shouldn't be like, this is a 9. Like, no. I don't know. I think we need to get away from games as product reviews, like games as objective reviews about, well, the gameplay is good and the graphics are pretty and 9 out of 10. Like, no. Talk about the way this game like made you feel while you were playing it. Don't like search for the elusive specter of fun, because what you find fun is not something that I will find fun. What WASD finds fun is not something that any sane human being should find fun. But it's there. That's not a good measurement. Like, talk about like what it made you think. Like, did it make you think? Did the story challenge your opinions? Like, did you like the way the game played? Did it do anything interesting? Did it stick with you? Like, stop being like, you know, objective about it, especially because we've got all these people. I wish they'd cut out the commentary and give us the objective review. There's no such fucking thing. Like, every single person comes to every single piece of art differently, or entertainment or media or whatever it is, whatever you want to call games as a medium.
Right.
Like,
and there's nothing inherently wrong with Buyer's Guide, but it's like I feel like some people are trying to have both. Like, they're gonna try to be the Buyer's Guide review while also being the reflective review. And it's like you kind of can't be both. You have to pick one side and just own it at that point. Like, just be upfront.
Exactly. Yeah, like,
because you're upfront with your readers. I feel like if GameSpot just came up front and said, "We're done with being buyer's guides. This is going to be everyone's opinion on the thing. Suck it up." I think they'd get some backlash, but I think after a while, certain people would begin understanding their point of view.
Yeah, I mean, you can't have your cake and eat it. Like, at some point, if you want to
Watch
write
me.
those reflective, shut up, Chris. At some point, if you want to write those reflective reviews, like, you have to commit to that. You can't be like, well, I really liked this part. It reminded me of when I was a childhood, but the gameplay was objectively great. And then the graphics were really shiny, and if you like the 1080p thing, it does that. So, I don't know. Like, write a review that you want to read.
Right, sure.
Don't write a review that's like bullshit nonsense, buyer's guide product. At the end of the day, no one will remember this game, but you thought it was absolutely fucking fantastic because it checked the goddamn boxes.
I think GameSpot tried to do it at one point with they had that second review of BioShock Infinite. But I don't know if that was a really successful experiment.
No, probably not, because it hasn't happened again.
Yeah, no, I always said that feels like a cop out when you're doing 2 opinion reviews.
Yeah.
Because I think it's more sincere when you say this one review, we're sticking to it. That's why certain websites that I own don't do that thing.
Yeah.
I don't find
I wish there was more room to come back to games and have those kind of discussions. And you could have both on a site somehow, but
And
it's tough.
Jumping on that not necessarily as reviews, but we definitely need to be looking back a little bit farther in the medium. We need to do retrospectives about games and talk about aspects of the games that are kind of overlooked, or we need, remember your history, go back to it, because if you don't, it's just kind of there. Those games deserve to be not overlooked because some shiny new turd in a pretty plastic box came out. Activision. So
Destiny.
Anyway.
Yes.
I wasn't gonna name games. I was just gonna say Activision's a shitty publisher, but yeah.
You mean Champ's Goat? Destiny?
Yeah.
Such a great game.
So, guys, I think it's time to get out of here. I think we've gone past the 2-hour mark, so we've...
oh my god.
Yeah, we've been at this for a while. So I'm gonna turn things over to the hashtag Legendary Heil68 to get us the hell out of here. Wait a minute. I got this feeling that Heil is out like walking the dog or
Nah, I just
kissing the old
firing up some
lady.
games.
Oh, there we go.
Uh,
Do you want me to get us out of here, Heil?
yeah, sure. Since I was lollylagging over there.
All right. Well, first we want to say thank you, a very sincere thank you to the team over at endlessbacklog.com. These are the guys that a lot of you listen to each and every week. We hope to garner a little bit more, some more listeners for these guys. They are certainly worth it. I'm going to start off by saying thank you to Champ. Thank you, Champ, for being on.
No problem, man.
Yeah, good time. We want to say thanks to Will, otherwise known as Dark Link.
Thanks for having me, guys. Feel free to ask me anytime. Love doing it with you.
Yep, thank you. And we're going to say thanks to Chris.
It was a great honor.
And we're also going to say thanks to Ben for his first time on Pedal to the Metal.
It was a lot of fun.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, and Champ, anything you want to say about Endless Backlog? Get these people a tag?
No, I think we've sadly have done enough shameless promotion, so I won't say that you could listen to the Endless Backlog podcast on iTunes or subscribe to it on Stitcher and check us out on Twitter at endlessbacklog.com or check our stuff out at endlessbacklog.com. There's even a forum you could sign in on. I don't think we need any more shameless promotion.
I really appreciate you not pushing that anymore. That's really nice of you. Yeah,
me too.
Yeah. And we want to say thanks to the amazing man of the past 2 hours, Mr. Animal Mother.
Just call me Angry Andy.
He was mad.
He was Animal Father tonight. We heard Animal Father tonight. So I'm gonna say thanks to everyone. The hashtag Legendary Heil68 included. I am the Eroica. We want to say thank you for listening to Pedal to the Metal. We'll see you guys soon.
Later.
See ya.
Peace.
Damn, 2 hours. Oh.